Okay, so we have all kinds of toys available to us right now. Foam roller, ball, a pillow or a towel to support your tummy or anything else you need as we go. Yoga blocks, chair. So let's start standing with your chair and using your chair. Let's see, I think yours is a little bit low. Okay, so let's find a position where we have to step back a little bit. And I want you to have enough room to draw your knee up in front of you. Yeah, so maybe like shoulders not quite over the wrist, but a little bit back from there. And you can, of course, tweak your stance as we kind of figure it out here a little bit. And so first, let's just extend one leg nice and long behind, and we're going for just a straight line from the ear down to the foot. And let's just kind of, with your fingers pointing in just slightly, let's just kind of hinge or roll over the left hip joint. Maybe that's a weird cue, but we're gonna just tip forward and back. So we're getting like a light push up here, elbows going slightly wide. Some, standing and supporting work on this left leg on the ground. And just, spinal stability with a little bit of movement coming from elsewhere. So I'm going to move us a little bit, and then we will sit down and do some kind of deep and subtle work once we're a little warmed up. Okay, so anytime like that standing hip needs a rest, you can just step down and give it a rest. Now let's take this into a little bit more of like a spine bendy move. So as we hinge forward, we'll go into a little bit of back bend. And of course you can go for it if that's okay, but keep it as small as you want. And then as we come up, let's draw the knee up and maybe even round the back a little bit. So we'll sweep back, take a little push up, maybe a little back bend, press up, and round with whatever room you have to. Sweeping up and back bend, rounding and drawing in a little bit. And one more like that. Okay, so then let's sweep that right leg up, take your chest toward the back of the chair, and your chest still facing the chair. Let's turn the right leg out and just pulse 5 times that outer ankle up for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stand up and stand on both feet. And if you need a little shimmy of the hips to kind of stretch into that outer, especially the left one, always wiggle it out when you need to. And then of course, let's just do this on the other leg. So we'll sweep the left leg back, and we're just staying in a nice straight line as we just tip forward and back. So again, taking this kind of light push up and some spinal stability. Okay, then we could add a mild spine movement, sweeping up, taking the chest forward a little bit, and however much back bend feels good, and drawing the knee in and rounding only as far as it feels good and only as far as you have space to move. Inhale, maybe back bending. Exhale, rounding in a little. Inhale and exhale. Good. Again, just stepping that left foot down and taking a rest in the hips anytime you need it. And this time, let's sweep that left leg up, hinge forward. We'll turn it out so the outer left ankle is going toward the sky for 5 pulses for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's just stand on both feet. And again, give yourself a little sassy hips if you need to kind of work that out a little bit. Okay, so then, gosh, if your chair back is not high enough, you could just even get next to a wall for this, anything that's like the right position for you. And let's take a yoga block and face it long ways this way. I'm going to face you now. And let's put your left foot on the block. And I like to have the heel right at the back edge. So if any part of the foot is going to fall over, it's going to be the toes. And then I'd like to stand on that block. And of course, any movement I teach you, you can do a bigger or smaller range of motion depending on what's comfortable. So we're going to start with 2 straight legs, especially focusing on keeping this left one straight. And we lower the right leg. The left hip's going to get this little sassy hip thing. And then we're going to lift the right leg. So the belt line here is unleveling one way and then the other way. And we're getting this nice kind of elastic kind of spring in the hip where the tissues in this left hip here are spreading open and then kind of, recoiling from the stretch. Okay, so then next, let's level the feet out and level the hips out. And now we're going to stay level here and bend the left knee to tap the right foot down and just stand back up. So we'll tap and stand up. In this left knee, I actually like you to allow it to go toward your big toe a little bit. So we're not like pushing it out. We're allowing it just slight inward drift. Okay. And then let's just stand it up tall, again, staying level right here. And just inhaling, letting that right leg kind of just go with gravity. And on the exhale, we're just keeping the spine still as we lift the knee up in front of the hip. So let's inhale, lengthen the leg. Exhale, draw the knee up and in. So the bones of the spine are staying very still, even though we're still breathing and breathing around the spine. That creates a lot of soft tissue movement around the spine, but the bones can still stay put. Okay, now let's lengthen that right leg. Sweep it back a little bit as the left knee bends. So we're actually rotating right as the left knee bends. And then we're going to rotate left as the left knee straightens. So rotate right, left knee bends a little. Rotate left, left knee straightens. Right and bend, left and straighten. Once more, right and bend, left and straighten. Okay, and then let's just switch legs. So I habitually put the chair on the other side. If you're not using a chair, like it can be on the same side if you're using a wall or whatever. Okay, so then we'll place the right foot on the block, heel to the back edge of it, and we'll stand up on there. I'll get this out of the way so the view is a little better. Okay, heels on the back, so if anything falls off the block, it's going to be the toes. Just really make sure both knees are straight, especially focusing on the right one staying straight. And then the left leg, we're going to kind of let it get heavy. This right hip kind of stretches open a little. We're unleveling. And then we're going to lift the left foot up to unlevel the other way. So as this right knee stays straight, we lower and lift the left. Getting this nice springy hip here. Okay, let's level the hips out and keep them level now. As we bend the right knee to just tap the left foot down and stand back up. So just a mini kind of lowering and weight bearing. And again, we're allowing that right knee to just gently drift in toward the big toe. I have to kind of remind myself to let that happen on this leg. You know, some people will tend to like dump and then you need to decelerate a little. And some of us need to allow it to go in a little bit. Okay, so then we'll just stand tall. Inhale, let the left leg feel nice and long. And on the exhale, just draw the knee up, keeping the spine and the pelvis nice and still. Inhaling to lengthen the leg. And exhale to lift it. Very simple, but a nice way to really access the deep, deep musculature around the spine without having to do like a crunch or whatever, or get too much into the big outer mover muscles. This keeps us, the lighter we go, the kind of deeper we stay in our support systems. Okay, so then as you take this left leg straight now, let's sweep it back and rotate left. Then we're going to spin to the right, straightening the right knee all the way. So we'll sweep back, rotate left, bend the right knee. Rotate right and straighten the right knee. Spinning left and bending. Spinning right and straightening. Spinning left to bend. Right to straighten. And let's try one more. I should have said right from the beginning that you can do all that stuff on the floor even without a block, but the elevation is kind of nice. Okay, so let's get rid of the blocks for now. And then I think I'm gonna sit side profile to you for now. And so let's take, you could use the ball or the pillow. But let's have a seat at the front of the chair so we're not at all leaning back on the back of it. So we're really just on the sit bones and nice and tall and light in posture. And let's put the feet together underneath us and then place the ball between the knees. You know, so if you have yoga blocks and pillows, it's easy to adjust our position in so many ways. Like you could elevate yourself more if that's what you needed. If it made your hips or your spine feel better, you could put it under your feet and get a little more lift here if that felt good in any way. So go ahead and, you know, always just pause and take the time to make something a little more structurally sound and comfortable if you can. Okay, feet together, ball between the knees. Let's try to take the hands around the sides of the ribs. So notice I'm not placing my hands on the front. My thumbs are actually wrapped around the back a little. If your shoulders don't like that, there's no need to do it. You can just let your arms rest at your sides. Okay, so first thing, I want you to start paying attention to your breath. So I'm just gonna shut my yap for a moment while you just listen to your breath and feel your breath and just notice it. Okay, and then I'd like you to start guiding your inhales into your hands at the sides here, but also into your thumbs that are a little bit on your back. So we're going to inhale, kind of the ribs kind of spread open. And then let's very gently exhale all the way. So you're just going to draw out, lengthen the exhale until maybe you feel just a little bit of a hugging sensation around the spine. So we inhale, expanding the ribs into the hands and the thumbs. And a nice, gentle, drawn out exhale until we feel that kind of just deep connectivity. There's no need to intentionally squeeze any abdominals or, squeeze a big Kegel or anything. Just draw that exhale out to the end without pushing it, and just notice what you feel. Okay, you're welcome to keep your hands here for feedback, or you can relax your arms and just know that we're going to keep up with that nice ribcage breath. And now I'd like to take a big deep inhale, expanding those ribs. And on the exhale, we're going to just very gently, especially at the end of the exhale, very gently squeeze the ball with your knees a little bit. So inhale, torso expands, we relax the knees. And we draw out a nice long exhale, and at the end of that exhale, we're going to squeeze the ball a little bit with the knees. So now as we go, that kind of hugging sensation that hopefully you're feeling a little bit around the spine is now just kind of moving into the hips a little bit as well. So hips and core kind of just giving that nice gentle hug around the spine as we draw the exhale out. Okay, so let's give the knees a little relax for a moment. And then maybe I'll turn and face you for this. And let's just add a little bit. I'll have you send your arms overhead. If, it would definitely add a little bit of effort, but you could take the foam roller overhead and do it like that. Maybe I'll demonstrate that. Okay, so whether we have an object in the hands or not, we're just going to get some length through the outer arm and the side waist. Hopefully softness between the ears and shoulders. Okay, let's take our inhale, see it nice and light through the crown. And as we exhale, a little squeeze of the ball and reach the right arm. Let's first just reach straight up toward the ceiling, not trying to go over in a big side bend. Let's keep it small for now. So we inhale, come up tall. Exhale, a little squeeze of the ball as we reach the left finger straight up toward the ceiling. Inhale, nice and tall. Exhale, squeeze and stretch the right fingertips up. Inhale, relax the knees, come up tall. Exhale, a gentle squeeze as we reach long through the left fingers. Now, if you're feeling happy and okay, you could, of course, take it just a little bit further. Exhale, squeeze inside, bend over a little more. Inhale up tall. Exhale, a little squeeze as we side bend. Let's go once more each way. Of course, there's always the option to go even smaller, as small as you want with this move. Okay, so let's discard the ball for a moment. Again, you can do this with or without a foam roller. Let's take it overhead. We're gonna just kind of let the hips chill out for a moment. So let's rotate your rib cage and your gaze a little bit to your left. And we're gonna just kind of take the hands back a little and lift the heart up toward the ceiling. and come on back up tall. And of course, if back bending is not comfortable for you, so let's rotate the other way. Make sure you're not going to this place where the mid back is just pushing forward. So you want to keep this just a little bit connected and rather try lifting from the very top of your breastbone. So the difference is that or that. And I'm not the best at it, but hopefully that was a good enough example. Okay, let's find our flow. So let's rotate right. Send the hands back a little, lift from the top of the breastbone. Really keep going for length even as you explore a little back bend. So we come on up, rotate left. Hands come back a little, top of the breastbone lifts. Let's go one more time to the other side, coming up tall, rotating right. Hands come back, the chest lifts. And come on up. Okay, let's lower or get rid of the foam roller for now if you were using it. And then I'm going to turn side profile again. Okay, so let's see. We don't want to be sitting too far to the front of the chair now because we're going to like stand up and sit back down. So you might want to get like somewhere in the middle. And let's start with relatively wide feet, a little bit turned out. That's the shape of that is a little different for everyone. So just find your comfort zone there. And let's see. Let's begin with your hands on your knees. I like to kind of go fingers in and elbows wide, but you can point those fingers in whatever direction keeps your shoulders happy. Okay, so we're going to stay nice and neutral in the spine. Hinge forward at the hips. And I want to be very intentional about the breath here. So we're going to take a big inhale. And with the exhale, we're going to shift into those feet all the way, press through the legs and the arms to stand. Okay, so we're going to send the butt back, maybe bring a little weight into the arms, lower down as smoothly as you can to that chair, and let's do it that slow, just maybe 2 more times. So we'll hinge, feel the weight come into your feet, take a nice big inhale, and exhale, press yourself off that chair. Let's lower it down. Nice and smooth. Finding your seat again. And one more time, that's slow. Let's hinge. The weight dumps into the feet. We press through arms and legs to stand up. And lower back down. Okay, so just briefly, we have a diaphragm and a pelvic floor. Or thoracic diaphragm, pelvic diaphragm. Anyway, as we inhale, those 2 muscle layers lower, and as we exhale, those 2 muscle layers lift. Both directions are equally important. What we need is for those tissues to be nice and elastic and adaptive and kind of a little buoyant. So, you know, both directions are very important. A lot of times during pregnancy, we need maybe a little emphasis on the lifting part. So I kind of like this cue that maybe you have like a tissue lying on your seat there. And as we exhale and stand, it's almost like that deep muscle layer in your pelvis. It's almost like as you stand up, you're just like slightly trying to like pick that tissue up with your pelvic floor. I often don't even cue stuff like that because what I get is like a big like butt clench, and it's not really about your butt. It's a little more forward from that. It's the base of your pelvis. And if that doesn't resonate with you, the breath is what makes it happen. So just focus on the breath. Okay, so same position, hinge it forward. Maybe imagine that little tissue under your butt here. We inhale, and as we exhale, press up. Just see if you can feel any kind of feeling like that. Like, oh, I could just pick up the lightest Kleenex with my pelvic floor as I stand up. And then we'll make this just a little bit more dynamic. So let's inhale, send that bum back, tap the seat, and on the exhale, press back up. Inhale and exhale. So I like to use the arms just to make it a little bit more of a full body experience. If you wanted to focus on your lower body musculature, you could just hands on your hips, fold them in front, whatever works for you. Maybe even reaching for a little bit of counterbalance. Okay, this time let's come down and take a seat. And then I'll have you bring your legs, your feet in a little bit. So now they're just right in front of your sitting bones. If you wanted to bring a little emphasis to that inner hip musculature, you could do this whole thing with the ball between your knees. I'll leave that up to you. So again, if you want kind of a more full body movement, you can put your hands on your legs. If you wanted to keep a little more leg and balance focused, you could just keep your hands out of the way. So let's hinge forward, weight coming into those feet. Let's inhale and exhale, press to stand. And if you have the ball, it's just a gentle squeeze. It's not a big, massive effort. So let's inhale, tap the bum to the seat. And with the exhale, maybe you can feel that sensation that you could just pick that light little tissue up with your pelvic floor. Remember, not with your butt cheeks. Inhale as we tap. Exhale as we press into the ground to stand. Okay, so then let's go ahead and discard the chair. And let's do our juicy standing work before we make our way to the mat. Okay, so feet right underneath those hip joints or your sitting bones. Arms at the side body. So let's first spin the thumbs to point forward, but then out to the sides, maybe even back a little bit. And as we spin the arms, we're going to lift again from the top of the breastbone. Bend the knees, let them drift together. Okay, I'm trying to be side profile so you can see there's no butt under kind of thing. I have ear over shoulder over hip over foot. And then as we straighten the legs all the way and keep them straight, let's spin the arms in and round the back as much as is comfortable. Again, not so much a butt clench, maybe like a drawing up of the pubic bone. Keep it gentle. Okay, let's spiral the arms out. Lift the chest, bend the knees, let them drift toward each other. And straighten the legs. Spiral the arms in, round the back. So you're basically trying to slouch your posture a little bit. Spiral the arms out, arch the back, knees drift toward each other. We straighten the legs. Hold those knees straight as we spin in and round, trying not to clench your butt. One more, spiral out, arching, knees drifting toward each other. And straightening, holding straight, spinning in and rounding. Okay, let's take your right arm forward with the palm up and the left arm back with the palm up. Now the tendency here is to lean forward and develop a big kink in the back of the neck. So I'd like you to really stretch to the back arm to keep yourself tall. And then stretch through the back arm even more to draw the left shoulder back The chest opens up toward the wall at our left, but we're still looking over the front hand. Okay, so we're going to switch the arms, left arm forward, right arm back. Emphasis on stretching and reaching through the right arm, even as we're looking over the left one. And let's switch and reach, especially back. Switch and reach, especially back. Okay, let's rest and then maybe face each other. And let's now take the arms out to the sides. With your right hand, we'll start rolling the palm back. Reach through that right hand. And only as much as it's comfortable, roll the left arm forward. So this is like you're being wrung out like a washcloth. Okay, left arm rolls back as we reach through it. Right arm rolls forward. And you might get to go far enough where you get a nice stretch down the side of your back. Right hand back, left arm forward. And maybe this is plenty for you to try to sync up with, but if you can handle like one more thing to think about, you could also try to keep your eyes level as we do this. So basically, these movements have a relatively still head, but we very much move everything below it. So we're accessing a lot of like mobility in the neck, but just we're kind of used to a still body with all the head movement, but we're just sort of doing it the opposite way because that's how we move about the planet. Okay, so now let's take your left arm to the sky. And I want you to reach it enough that you get this tilt in the rib cage. And then the left knee's gonna bend, and you can kind of shift your weight over into the right leg a little as that happens. It should be just kind of gentle and easy. And then tilt the head into that left arm very gently. Okay, right arm up until you get this little shift or tilt of the ribs. Left knee bends, head tilts left. Oops, head tilts right. Okay, left arm up, left knee bends, head gently tilts left. We'll stand it up, right arm up, right knee bends, head tilts right. Let's do one more and we'll floss the next stretch. So left arm up, left knee bends, and then let's gently tilt the ear toward the arm and away. Super softly. Okay, let's go right arm up, right knee bends, head tilts right and left a few times. Okay, and let's stand it up. Okay, so next, let's take as much time for setup as you like. I would like to come onto the side body. So, yeah, you could have the pillow or rolled up towel under the tummy. You could have another pillow or your ball as an actual pillow under your head. Or you could just fold the bottom arm under your head comfortably. So, if that's comfortable. So I'll let you kind of sort out your position there. And then, let's see, I want to start with the feet like down, in line with your spine and your sitting bones. So your knees are not like straight in front of your hips at a 90 degree there. They're a little more, it's a little more open at the hip. And ideally we'd keep this top hip still so the pelvis does not roll forward and back or side to side at all. And let's start with this tick-tock. So we're gonna pick up the knee and then rest the knee. And then we're gonna try to pick up the foot and then rest the foot. And we're just gonna tick-tock or teeter-totter side to side there. You know, for me, as the repetitions go by, I kind of get like a little more open in each direction without having to get all grippy and pushy about it. And, you know, depending on what you're feeling in the back of your pelvis, like one of these directions might feel way better than the other, in which case you want to just emphasize that direction, like maybe make a really small move in a direction that's uncomfortable and a more kind of big one in the direction that feels really good. Okay, now let's rest the foot, open the knee, and let's pulse it open for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's rest the knee, pick up the foot, and pulse it open for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, next I want to extend that right leg out. As we go through movements here, I'm hoping not to get a lot of lifting and lowering here of the ribs. So let's just try to keep the spine nice and long and let the movement and the opening and stuff happen from the hip. So let's lift the leg and turn the toe down and just tap. And as we lift, we'll switch and turn the heel down and tap. So just alternating toe to heel with a little bit of spring in the move. And if you're like me, the heel, when I go to take my heel down, it's like at first I'm not even open enough to get to the floor, and that's okay. You don't have to get to the floor. Also maybe notice as we keep encouraging this kind of elastic support in the outer hip, maybe the range increases or it gets a little easier to lower down. Maybe it felt nice and open from the beginning. Okay, now let's stack the legs and straighten them. So the feet, like, you know, if I'm on a mat and my back is on the back edge of the mat, my toes are gonna come off the front edge of it. So there's a little bit of a boomerang at the hip. Let's pick up the top leg. Again, not movement in the spine, but movement in the hip. Let's sweep it forward for a pulse and back for a pulse. Forward and back. And just find your breath. Doesn't have to be happening in any specific way as long as we are breathing. Okay, let's stack the legs and rest them. And then let's try sweeping those legs back. So now our bodies are in just one long straight line. And just kind of test the waters gently with this one at first. Make sure it feels appropriate and healthy for you. So the right hand is on the mat, just kind of to help you balance and stabilize. We're gonna keep that nice sense of length through the skeleton. Now we need to make sure that the head stays resting. It's not gonna lift. This is not a neck move. So head is heavy. Let's see if we can keep this length in the body and just do a little lift and lower of the feet. Here, you might wanna inhale as the feet lower and exhale as you lift. The other way is totally fine as well. Just offering a little suggestion to maybe encourage ourselves to find the deeper layers of the abdominals rather than the outer layers. We don't really want to be getting into those outer layers too much right now. Okay, and if you want, let's pick those legs up. They don't have to come up high. Straight knees, flutter kick, and breathe in and out. And in. I should have said before, you could have like your blanket or something under your hip here if it's a little hard on the floor. Let's take one more breath. And rest. Okay, so I'm going to try to just make the transitions a little bit smooth. So before we do the other side, let's come onto the hands and knees for a little bit. So maybe just work your way up, kind of get your props in or out of the way as you need, and come to hands and knees. And for a lot of what we do right now, you could optionally, it does add to the challenge here, you could have the foam roller underneath your knees. I'm going to demo that so I remember that I put the option out there, and then we'll probably get rid of it in a moment. Okay, so if your wrists are uncomfortable, you could certainly have a rolled up towel, like elevating the heel of the hand a little. Also, like I have you start with your wrist right under the shoulders, but some people, if they walk the hand forward just a half an inch or turn the fingers out just a half an inch, all of a sudden things just feel a little bit better, and I'm totally fine with that. So, you know, unless that turnout is making your shoulders feel better, we're just gonna point the middle finger straight forward. And let's move into the shoulder blades here, allowing the chest to sink toward the floor. The shoulder blades kind of squeeze together on the back. And then we're going to push into the ground, lengthening the arms, pulling the chest away from the ground. So we're just going to go back and forth here, chest lowering, chest drawing away from the ground. Try not to hold back. Let's go for a nice big range of motion here. And then let's let the chest kind of melt toward the floor. The shoulder blades come together a little. Elbows are still straight. And then just gently let the head hang forward. And turn the head side to side a little bit. And for the next two moves, the foam roller adds to the difficulty. So if you're not digging how it feels, just get rid of it. Okay, so now we're gonna do our scapular stability push-up. So I always have to check in with my neutral. I have a tendency to sag here. So I'm gonna lift up from the bottom rib so there's not a big arch in the back. Just a very mild one in the lower back. Some of us will tend to clench and tuck and round, in which case we might need to kind of relax the butt out a little bit. But we're just looking for this line, hip, shoulder, ear. And then as we bend and straighten the elbows, we're gonna try not to let the elbows go very wide. They're gonna stay pretty close. And the hips stay right over top of the knees. So we're not pitching forward, we're not sitting back, because then there's just nothing for the arms to even do, but right over top of those knees. And of course, your push-up could be 1 inch deep. It could be forehead to the ground deep. Whatever you can do without getting all wonky in the shoulders and neck and spine. The tendency is to go here. Elbows wide, back of the neck crunches, right? Okay. From hands and knees, again, this one is like way harder on the foam roller than not, so just adjust as you see fit. Another way to mellow the move out is to keep your toes on the floor behind us as we go. To advance the move, you pick those toes up. There is a chance, it's like bouncy here, so make sure you don't topple over, of course. Okay, so nice and long. Let's try to send out one arm and the opposite leg, and we're stretching for length, not for height. and we draw in just as smoothly as we can, switching side to side. My foam roller is very squishy, so I sort of have no option but to unlevel a little bit because I'm sinking into it a bit. But if you're like on the ground or on a hard foam roller, ideally the pelvis just does not move. So right here, I have to give a little lift to get over the squishy roller. And if this is like a little bit much, you could do just the legs, and you can do just the arms, and then one day put it together. Okay, so I'm going to come off the foam roller. And okay, this next one, I want us to keep it very gentle. Like in general, you know, to be efficient in our movement, it's one of the foundational principles of Pilates. Is like, I think Joe Pilates once said, never do a 10-pound effort for a 5-pound task or something like that. So basically we're trying not to use any excess energy as we accomplish a task or a move. And that's how I'd really like to keep our focus here and now. So you can be on the tops of your feet, or you could curl your toes under and be on the balls of the feet. In fact, if that's okay for your feet, let's choose that option. And we're going to do like a miniature cat and cow. So I want you to inhale and back bend just a tiny bit. And on the exhale, we're just going to come back to neutral. And you're going to just keep exhaling and lengthening the spine, and maybe push into your feet. And, you know, the energy is like this, but if you even lift your knees off, I want it to be like 1 inch. You might not even lift them. You might just lighten them on the ground a little. So let's inhale, take a gentle, mild back bend. And exhale, just come back to neutral and either just lighten the weight on the knees or maybe lift them off slightly. Inhale. And exhale. So I don't have you rounding to pull those knees up because during pregnancy, it's pretty important to focus on the deep, deep layers of your abdominals so that your outer abdominals that are encasing your baby aren't getting squeezed and we're not like encouraging diastasis. So by accessing the deeper abs, yeah, we're just doing something a little more conducive to, you know, not creating more of a separation than needs to happen. Okay, so now let's do a little wiggle around. We'll lie down on the other side. And again, you know, grab all the props and things you need. Anything you need under your tummy, anything you need under your head. Could be a pillow under your head or just your arm like I'm doing. Always pause and take your time to set up if I'm going a little too fast. So then again, we want to start with the feet like down the line of the spine. So the angle at the hip is more open than a 90-degree. And then we'll start kind of teeter-tottering the leg. So we'll pick up the knee first and rest it and pick up the foot and rest it. And we'll just alternate there. The pelvis ideally is staying put. We're just kind of swiveling the femur here in the hip joint. And hopefully getting into the deep. This is internal rotation of the femur, external rotation, or the femur and the hip joint. And again, you can kind of choose an emphasis on one side or the other depending on what feels good or what may or may not create some discomfort. Okay, so then let's open the knee and pulse it open for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll rest the knee and pick up the foot and open for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, so then we're going to send the top leg long and straight. Remember, we're not trying to have a lot of like lifting and lowering movement here in the ribs and spine. I'd like this to stay nice and long and stable. Let's turn the toe down to tap and lift. Heel down to maybe tap, maybe not, and lift. So just like that standing work we did earlier, we're getting this opening or this kind of sassy hip thing here on the lower. And the recoil or the kind of spring on the way up. Okay, let's rest the leg, straighten them both, but remember we have this boomerang at the hips. And you can always like sweep more forward if you find yourself toppling over in this move. So we'll pick up the leg, we'll sweep it forward for a pulse and back for a pulse. Hopefully that's all happening in the hip, not in the spine. So this connection of your right side body here against the ground should stay nice and still. It's not rolling or shifting or lifting and lowering. Okay, let's rest the legs. Sweep them back so the body is in one long and straight line. Again, just test the water slowly with this one. Make sure it's okay. And make sure the head is staying resting and heavy so the neck isn't trying to lift and do the move for us. So nice and long. Left hand planted, we lift and lower both legs. You can keep it very small. If you're feeling real good, of course, you can lift higher. And only if it feels right, you could lift both legs, flutter kick, and breathe in. And out. Find the breath, smooth it out. One more. And let's rest. And I think that was everything we did on the side. Let's nice and easy. Again, press up, discarding any props you have around you. And just come back to those hands and knees. And let's just get a little fluid in the body here as a little bit of a cool down. So returning to our cat and cow movement, let's let the tail tip up, let the heart move forward. Let's take a gentle spin of those elbow creases toward your fingertips. And then let's forward bend, hanging the head, spinning those elbow creases toward each other. So if you had little eyeballs here in the elbow creases, they'd now be looking at each other. And when we go into the back bend, we had eyeballs on those elbow creases, they'd be looking straight forward. So just gently back and forth. Okay, and then let's just come into our long and neutral spine and try doing like a sideways cat and cow. So typically when we do this, the butt actually tries to shift away. So I want you to draw the hip toward the ear and the ear toward the hip. And not that it's wrong, but for now I don't want you to look at your hip, but stay looking at the ground and just bring that ear over. So ear and hip come toward each other. So the spine takes on a C curve, side to side. So we're sort of looking straight down at one hand and then the other. And then I would like to add that little rotation of the head, but let's first side bend right. So you start looking at your right hand and then slowly turn the head to look at or toward the right hip. Okay, side bend left. Slowly turn your head to look at the left hip. Let's do that once more each way. Side bend right. Rotate and look at the right hip. Side bend left. And rotate and look at the left hip. Okay. Hopefully that's okay on the wrist. You could come back and stretch them out a little bit, of course. And we will call that our prenatal Pilates class for today.